Welcome to the call today regarding the Homeless Contribution Income Tax Credit, or HCTC, as I will be referring to it today. We're going to focus on the annual report and the process for that. And so I'm Brianne Bales, if we haven't met previously. I'm the manager for HCTC. We also have Lonnie Silva on the call. Hi, Lonnie. Thanks for joining. Lonnie's the program assistant who assists with HCTC. You've probably emailed with Lonnie before. If you haven't, you probably will in the future. So happy to have everyone on the call. Happy New Year and happy 2 years to HCTC. It's hard to believe we're starting our third year. And so, yeah, very excited for that. I want to ask everyone to please mute yourselves unless you are asking us a specific question. This is not a webinar format, so you'll have to manually mute yourself because we want to be able to field any questions that folks have. So we want you to be able to unmute and ask during the presentation. If you please raise your hand for that. Also, please put your name and organization name in the chat if you haven't done that already. Throughout the presentation, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We're happy to pause a few times, answer those questions. We want everyone to be on the same page because, to be honest, just buckle in and get ready for just some complexity, okay? We have some reporting systems in place that you'll just really want to follow and make sure you're understanding the details because they're important in order for us to really communicate the overall picture of HCT's impact. So just really thank you for your attention today. And I'll go ahead and go into the agenda. Please just put your name and organization name in the chat if you haven't done so yet. I'm going to review the purpose of the annual report, why we're even doing this, collection methods. I'm going to demonstrate how to submit the Salesforce form that we have available for you to submit your data, and then going to review the expected results this year of what we're hoping to achieve, basically, and the next steps that we're asking as well. So we will be sending out the recording via email to those who were on the invitation list. So why does reporting matter for HCT specifically? We really want to demonstrate the impact of HCTC on your organization's fundraising, but ultimately on how that fundraising funds your services and how that impacts the community. So this is required by statute, but we're really hoping to have an overall picture of how the funds really make an impact across the state. We do have to annually submit that data to the State Housing Board, make a presentation to them. That's a requirement of statute. But also just want to keep in mind that the bill that created HCTC does sunset in 2026. So it creates the program through 2026. Basically, you know, new legislation would need to be brought to continue HCTC. And so really having the data to back up the impact of HCTC matters because technically it's a tax expenditure for the state. When someone gets a tax credit, that's fewer dollars that are going into the coffers of the state, less in tax revenue. And so we really want to demonstrate the why of why this matters, the lives that are being changed, the impact of the services that you're able to provide. So we're looking at the outcomes and outputs of each project on your community, how those activities address the needs of those experiencing homelessness. And we also report on the summary of contributions and tax credits that are issued. However, that's not anything extra you need to submit. We're able to pull that directly from Salesforce based on the information you've been submitting all year. So, yeah, hopefully that gives you some context on all of the more technical information we're going to talk about in just a few moments. So we have two data collection platforms for a few different reasons. Um, and um, so we have the Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS, and then we have a separate data collection form. So HMIS is encouraged for all organizations, but it's not required because we know that some organizations it's not feasible for you at this time. And maybe you're thinking about using HMIS. If you did not use it for 2024, but you're interested in creating an HMIS project in 2025 so that you can track your program participants there, you can submit a request on the Colorado HMIS website to get that set up. We actually do have a couple organizations where they were in 2023, were not in HMIS, and now in 2024 they were able to get that up and running. And so we're going to be able to pull their HMIS data this year. Also, for those returning for your second year in HCTC, you may remember last year that we asked you to submit some special reports from HMIS. We do not need those this year. We're able to really directly get that from the Tableau platform through HMIS. And so if you have data within HMIS, we're going to pull that directly without any steps needed from you. So that's good news on that front. If you're in this call, though, you were invited because your organization, for one reason or another, will need to submit the data collection form through our Salesforce platform. For those who did submit data last year, this is a new report form. Hot off the press, that's why we're having the training this week, because it was completed and ready for you to go. And this collection form is required for all capital campaign projects because that information is not collected in HMIS. It's about a building project. There aren't actual participants being served yet. So we want to be able to tell the story of the impact regarding your capital projects that you have going at your organization. Also, the case management and job training / workforce ready project categories are not included in HMIS, and we really want to be able to tell the story of the impact of those programs at your organizations as well. So those are basically required no matter if you use HMIS or not. So as you can see on the slide, there's two examples here. Example one is no HMIS entry. You don't use HMIS at all at your organization, then you're going to need to submit the Salesforce form for all projects, all subcategories for your organization. If you're in the second category where you use HMIS for maybe some of your project information, but not all, you'll need to submit the HCTC form for those participants who are not tracked in HMIS. Any questions so far? It doesn't look like anything in the chat. So you'll really want to think about, as you're just trying to dig into the Salesforce form here, you'll want to think about the reporting period and that it corresponds with your date of approval up to December 31st of 2024. So for the majority of you, you were active the entire year. So you're going to track participants, their data for January 1st through December 31st. If you were approved in the middle of the year, you'll want to pay attention to that approval date and submit from that date up until December 31st. You should know this date already. It was emailed to you when your organization was approved. That's your start date for HCTC. but if you need to reach out to us, feel free to do that. Um, Organization-wide data. This is information for the numbers served across your whole organization. So if you have multiple HCTC projects, we're looking at um, those that were served by all of your projects, but we want them unduplicated. So maybe you have someone who you served via outreach and shelter and case management. So um, you were involved with them on multiple project levels. We are looking at this organization-wide section as an unduplicated number. Just count that person once, and only submit this section once. We're only wanting, you know, just basically a total for your organization as far as who was served. This is for non-HMIS numbers. So if someone was submitted via HMIS, please do not submit them in this organization-wide section. I know that can be complicated, and we're going to walk through some examples to try to think through who your participants are at your organization. But it looks like there is a hand raised. Um, Emily, if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
I was just wanting to let you know that like I tried to put my name and my organization in the chat group and it said that it's not accepting, like you can't chat right now. So I'm wondering if people may have had questions and they couldn't put them in there or if they're having the same issue.
Oh, that's interesting. It looks like a chat just came through from Jan. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if Lonnie, if you could maybe look into that for Emily and try to coordinate that with Emily directly. If you can do that, that would be great, Lonnie. Jan, you're absolutely correct. So, um, if all of your non-HMIS project clients were also served in an HMIS program, that you don't repeat or report them again. And that is correct. That's the point of that bullet point right there. So we're wanting this information to be clean, unduplicated, not overinflated or underinflated. So yes, thank you for your due diligence on that. So that's the organization-wide section, which I will show you. I'll give you a demonstration of what that looks like. Project-specific data. So the project-specific data is really for your particular project. We will send you an email. In that email is going to be your project names and the categories we're looking for you to report on. We've gone through meticulously noted, okay, this person, they use or this organization, they use HMIS, but they have case management. So we're going to send them an email with the project name and the category of case management that we're looking for you to report on. So that section is really dependent on what is within that email, those email instructions for you. Only include the total individuals served within that HCTC project. And so you'll need to submit the form multiple times for multiple projects. So if you have 3 projects at your organization, you'll submit that project data for each of those projects. What we're looking at here is being able to look at, okay, all shelter participants all um, across all HCTC participants. So we're going to look at total served by project category. And so that's going to be really powerful to look at the impact of each of those service types across all of your organizations. So that's why we're setting it up this way. Please note, just a technicality, that the form does not save progress if you navigate away from the form. So we encourage you to have another document open. If you need to save some of your answers there so that they are not lost, we encourage you to do that. So I'm going to demonstrate in the Salesforce platform what this form looks like. So I believe you should be seeing my Salesforce screen. If not, please let me know. This is your home screen, right? Now there is a new little tab button hidden over here under More. So if you go to More and Submit HCTC Annual Report, here it appears. Here's some instructions on completing the form, and then you'll click Start Form to begin. And it starts just with some of your basic information here. We're going to go through 3 organization examples today to really thoroughly cover the basis as far as what may be applicable for your organization. So our example 1, nonprofit uses HMIS for all operational services data entry and has a capital campaign. So that means that basically this organization does not submit the organization-wide data at all. They just submit their capital campaign project information. So keep that in mind for this example. The organization name is your name that we have on file is your official name. You can also include your doing business as name here. The FAIN, so we know for tracking purposes how to attribute this information, the name of who submitted this form. So this really helps us in any follow-up questions we may have. And then the tax year is 2024. Continuum of care region. So we are tracking by region for continuum of care because we do have to, by statute, really measure the impact at the community level. So this is what we're doing. We're looking at the different regions. And so that's why it's important to make sure you accurately select your continuum of care region for the project. And then the project name. Please refer to your email for this name. If you type in the name, it should populate kind of like a search feature here for all of your projects within your organization. So um, I'm submitting this one for the test capital campaign. So I'm going to click next. Have you submitted the organization-wide data? The answer for this example is yes, because all organization-wide data has been submitted via HMIS. Project category. So this is really where you narrow down for the form which questions should populate. So this is a capital campaign. Supportive housing is the campaign type. And so I'm going to select that. If you have multiple categories listed in your email, then you'll need to select multiple here, and you're able to do that. You can select all or one, just depending on your specific circumstance. Here are the questions for the capital campaign. It's just one page. So we're looking at the total number of unduplicated individuals that are expected to be served. So we know you haven't actually launched anything yet. This is an estimate of how many you expect to be served on an annual basis. So I'm just going to put an estimate of 20 here. And then the number of units. So this is a supportive housing project. So I'm going to submit the number of units that are within my supportive housing project. The anticipated date of construction completion. So if you would include that, say you're going to continue your capital campaign until mid-year this year, you would want to include that information, and then the address is completed next. So just pretty simple stuff here on the name of the building. Just putting the name of the building. Hopefully you have one that's in place. Here is a short answer of, what advancements were you able to achieve through the contributions that were submitted via HCTC? And so this would be a short answer. So for a capital campaign, maybe trauma-informed design was achieved through the supportive housing project because of additional funds raised. Whatever the impact was for your organization, you'd include it there. Program service names supported by the project. So if that's the name of the building, if that's the same, that's fine. If it's a different program or service name, include that there. And that's all for the capital campaign portion. That may or may not apply to you. If you have multiple projects that you'll need to submit, you'll just click on Start New Report, and it takes you over to the beginning. Looks like we have a question that Lonnie fielded in the chat. I'll go ahead and continue with our next example. Example number 2. This nonprofit uses HMIS for the majority of their project types, and they have a case management project type, and they have a capital campaign. So here, the organization-wide data section may or may not need to be submitted, depending on the organization's project participants, as I mentioned earlier. So if the individuals were tracked in HMIS, do not submit them to avoid duplication. You may think about it in the sense of your HCTC project, maybe you're providing shelter, and you have case management as another service type. Is your case management to only the population within the shelter, or do you also offer case management to other individuals that are not in the shelter? That would be another way to frame that question. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the form for this example organization. You do need to submit your organization information each time. Appreciate your patience with that. It does help with tracking the information. This time I'm going to submit a different project name. And then select next. So let's say this example, their case management participants are all already counted in HMIS. So we're going to say, yes, these were submitted in HMIS. We're going to show you how the organization-wide data looks like on the next example. So they do need to submit for their operational services project for case management only. And so here are the case management questions. Total served. So this is an unduplicated number of the total individuals served within case management. So let's say there were 20 served. We're also looking at other metrics that show the impact of your case management program. So the number of referrals. So we're looking at referrals. It could be multiple per person. So maybe someone was referred to transportation. They were referred to help getting benefits. They were referred to a food bank. Those were 3 referrals for just one individual, and that's totally fine to have those. We're looking at the number of referrals here to non-housing resources. Number of housing-related referrals, same thing. If you're helping them with an application to or to get a voucher or a housing wait list or something like that, that would be counted here. Number of cases closed due to client achieving goals. So maybe out of those 20 served, 3 of them achieved all of their goals and their cases were closed. Maybe some people, maybe you lost touch with them, and so they didn't actually achieve all of their goals and maybe go to permanent housing. But that you did work with them and have some outcomes that were met. Maybe they had a goal of getting their ID and they achieved that goal of receiving their ID. Then that would be counted in this number here. Data not collected is really a catch-all of how many, if that data was not collected for the number who received their case management. Okay. Length of continuous participation in case management. So this is really looking at the longevity of those people who participate in case management for your organization. And so if they were with you for less than 4 months, that answer would be included here. You'll really want to look at the totals here to make sure it adds up to the total served. So less than 4 months, let's say, pretty short term for a lot of folks, 10 for there, 2 for 4 to 6, 2 here, 2 here, none for more than a year. And then let's say I'm about to hit submit. Actually, should probably, double check my math here. So 10, 12, 14, 16, I'm missing 4 because the total served is actually 20. So I need to double check some things, make sure that I'm actually enter this correctly. Oh, it looks like we didn't actually collect that data for 4 participants. So we're going to go ahead and put 4 for data not collected and then submit. Then that's it. This example did have a capital campaign as well. So it's to start the form, fill all this out for the capital campaign project as well. Let's go ahead and go to that final example, number 3. Some of you are in this boat. Nonprofit is not in HMIS at all. I haven't touched on this yet, but domestic violence organizations would be in this category. I know that last year we had you submit capers from Cafe HUD. This year we're just asking you to submit this Salesforce form instead. And so please remember that this organization in this category just submits the organization-wide data once and then submits separate project forms for each project. So going to fill out the project and the organization information. Have you submitted the organization-wide data yet? Let's say this is the first, so this is the first time I'm accessing the form. No, I have not. I need to submit all of that. So here you would include the total individuals served, unduplicated across all HCTC project and services. This total is going to be important to reference when we're looking at the information down here. I'm going to do 10 for an easy number for making sure all these sections add up to 10. So the demographics section, each of these do align with the categories within HMIS. And so that's why they're categorized the way they are, they're worded the way they are, because we're trying to marry the information you submit here with the HMIS data. So please note that these data points do align. And each demographic section is basically going to add up to 10 for the numbers you put in here. So let's say for this project, 2 males were served, 7 female, and then 1 transgender individual. And so that equals 10. I need to make sure I put zeros in these other categories that none of our participants um, were identified as. Age groups, same thing. You'll want to look at each age range and put the number of individuals within that age range category. So let's say really no youth were served by this project, but we had some in the middle category here. So this adds up to 10, we're good. Race and ethnicity. Um, this would be just filled out based on what the client identifies as. I do know that race and ethnicity are two different categories depending on the data collection. Um, this is the way HMIS categorizes it, so that's why we're looking at Hispanic as separate from white. I know that that ethnicity piece is different from the race piece in a lot of the collection surveys that go out, but this is the way we're doing it for HCTC. Physical and mental health conditions. So this is basically if someone has a physical or mental health condition, then the answer is yes. Maybe one person you didn't collect that information. One person without, this adds up to 10, so we're good. Number of veterans, um, again, same thing. If you collected that from the individuals, go ahead and note that there. Um, if that was not collected for some of the individuals, go ahead and note that there. There is a question in the chat if we can download the form before filling it out. The answer is no. However, we do have a document with all of the data points listed out. So all of these demographics and the options are listed in bullet point form. And that's going to be linked in your email to the to your with their instructions to your organization. So you can refer to that to make sure, you need to communicate with someone in your organization about the demographics that we're collecting. You can send them that document as an easy way to reference it. And Brenda asked to clarify just to make sure I understand that if the organization is using HMIS, then we do not need to submit a form. Yes, if all of your participants are in HMIS. So this is an example of someone who is not using HMIS, and so they have to collect all of this demographics data separately. HMIS already has all of this information in here, and so no, you would not have to submit this portion again. Exit destination outcomes. So this section, moving on from demographics, really refers to, okay, where did the client go? They're not working, they're not being served within this project anymore. What happened to them? Did they return to a homeless situation? Did they find a permanent housing situation? Did they find something temporary? Hopefully you're collecting this information to really understand, the impact of your programming and where the client ends up. But also, this data might not be collected as well because sometimes things happen in their life. You're not able to reach them. And so there may be a data not collected number here as well. So just fill this portion out to the best of your ability, just making sure that it equals the number that is your total that you're working with for each of these sections. So for me, we served a total of 10 for this organization. So this equals 8. Let's see. So let's say 2 people were housed permanently on there. Brenda asked to clarify on the number that is not in HMIS, we would submit the form for that data. That is correct. So say if you have one project that is not tracked in HMIS, you would fill out all this information for the project that's not tracked in HMIS. Your other project participants that are tracked in HMIS, make sure that that information is not included here to avoid duplication. Hopefully that is as clear as mud. I appreciate the question so that we can make sure everybody's on the same page. Someone asked, did we already get an email with the data points we need to collect, or did that or not? So we have sent that list out previously throughout the year, but we are sending an email with your project specific information as well as the report data document as well. So that has not gone out yet, but just keep an eye on your inboxes for that. That email we expect to go out by early next week, so that you have some time to submit it before the deadline. Good question. So that's all of the participant information. Now we're looking at the fundraising impact. And there's 3 questions here regarding fundraising impact. So here, please share how HCTC has benefited your organization regarding your program and services. Do you have any stories of how HCTC has added value to your organization's services? So maybe you were able to implement something new in your programs or buy something new. Maybe you got a large, there's one organization, they got a land donation. As an in-kind donation. And so they're able to jumpstart a new housing location because of that. So some of those stories of impact here on the program level. Here, any fundraising impact as far as have donors responded to HCTC in a positive way? How have donors um, maybe increase their donations, or you've been able to really interact with new donors, engage people for the first time because of HCTC, anything like that, go ahead and include that in this section. First year organizations, if this was the first time you participated in HCTC, did you see an increase in funds raised? And if so, by what percentage? So, this has been helpful for a couple of our organizations that were new in 2023 who did not participate in the previous enterprise zone tax credit. It was really neat to see the percentage there and impact. So that's it for the organization section. Let's look back at the example. So nonprofit is not in HMIS. We submitted the organization-wide data. All right, let's do the project forms. So let's say this organization just has operational services. They do not have a capital campaign. Just for kicks, I'm going to select all of these. This is probably not the case for you. You probably don't have every single one of these, but just look to your email instructions for which ones are applicable for you. Shelter, very simple. We're just looking at total served in your shelter program, unduplicated numbers. Supportive housing, same thing. Outreach. We're looking specifically, yes, at total served, so number of unduplicated people that we're engaged with. but also number of contacts. So maybe you engaged with someone on multiple occasions. We want to know how many times you engaged with a person. So if you engaged with 15 people, let's say five of them you talked to one time, five of them were 2 to 5 times, five of them were more than 10 times. That's how you would look at completing this section. Prevention. So this is looking at those you're trying to provide assistance so that they do not lose the housing that they have. Um, so we're looking at total unduplicated served as well. That's going to be a theme throughout each subcategory. Um, we're looking at were they able to maintain the housing they had at the beginning of the project. Um, and so you'll just include the number there. Um, and these would need to um, equal that 100 number as well. So make sure to um, keep note of that. Case management, I already went through all of these, but for the sake of filling this out, I'm gonna just go ahead and put these there. Workforce development, so number served for your job training, workforce ready services, and making sure that you have the total served here. The number who retained their jobs, so that may not, um, maybe that's the purpose of your program. If that's not the purpose of your program, you would just put 0. Maybe you're trying to help people get new jobs, so you put that number here of those who obtain new jobs. Number pursuing, um, maybe they exited the program, they're not receiving your services anymore, but they were pursuing some kind of credential when they exited your program. And then anybody who obtained a credential or degree from your project. Domestic violence is just total number served. Same thing for other. So other is an interesting category. Some of you may have just services that don't fit into any of these other categories. So that's what we're asking you to complete the other category. Rapid rehousing would also be considered an other category, but I'm pretty sure most people would track rapid rehousing within HMIS. But if you have questions on the other category, feel free to reach out. We have this kind of general section here for you to report any other outcomes that for your organization you track. So maybe you have a customer satisfaction survey that you um, have that you track those specific categories. Maybe this is you you provide meals to folks. And so maybe you put the number of meals that were served here. So it really depends on your specific project and just really trying to think about what are the outcomes, what are the impacts, how are lives changed, what are the numbers associated with that, and put those here. If you need help brainstorming and trying to figure out what to include here, feel free to reach out. But that's it. I filled out all of this. Um, each field is required, so if you do have a blank one, it's not going to let you submit it. But that's the end of that example 3 here. So um, results, we are expecting, honestly, a more complete and accurate data um, outcome compared to last year. So last year, many of you may have remembered the deadline was different. Legislation passed this year or became law this year that actually moved the deadline back. And so That's really good news for everyone to have plenty of time to double check their information, really collaborate with the staff at your organization, and just not have as much pressure as far as the deadline on trying to get it submitted. The deadline is March 1st. We do ask for you to begin working on it as soon as possible. Last year, we did have to do some follow-ups with organizations that maybe the data was looking like it was incorrect or needed to be checked in on. And so that's why one reason why we ask you to just do it as soon as possible, get it off your plate, um, have it behind you. Um, at the same time, we ask you to do your due diligence in looping in all relevant staff at your organization. I'll just give an example, with the tight timeline last year. I did some follow-ups with a couple organizations. One organization, they had, data not collected for their entire job training section. And so that was a little concerning. Wanted to reach out, see if we could collaborate on making sure that the data points made sense for their organization. I dug in a little bit, got connected to the staff member who was over their job training program. They actually did collect all of that information for that previous year. The person just filling out the form didn't do that due diligence of connecting with that person. And so I know last year it was just such a hustle, but I'm really hoping because of this time frame that we have until March 1st for you to get that in, that you can have that excellent communication and collaboration within your organization. Um, Also, I think I mentioned this before, but we have made improvements and tweaks with the Salesforce form based on how the information was adding up last year. We were able to make some tweaks that make sense as much as possible to have unduplicated numbers and still seeing the big picture without over inflating or underreporting. So, um, looking forward to data dashboards being created for the state and COC levels. Those are going to be really great to look at, and looking at a final comprehensive report that's available, they'll send out and share with you all. We'll share it on our website as well as present to the state housing board. Next steps. So as we mentioned previously in this presentation, just please expect a personalized email with instructions for your organization by early next week. Please make sure to complete the report earlier, the better. Again, the deadline is March 1st. And here's a reporting guide. I do have a couple minutes. I'll open this up and share it with you. This is going to be linked in that email. This is a comprehensive um, just really goes into depth on each of the collection methods, what you'll want to look at. It has the examples that I went through over in this presentation. It goes through each of the subcategories. So if you're not really sure how to answer one of the questions, you can look at this guide. So this is something that will be sent to you via email. And this is the data elements guide that I was referencing previously. Um, that's actually the incorrect version. Um, is a document that really goes into bullet point level. What are the data elements that we're looking for each category? I'll make sure and update this link before we send it out. But yeah, we can send you the recording for this presentation, the slides from this presentation as a follow-up, and then look for an individualized email by early next week. We do have office hours next week, Wednesday, the 15th at 1 p.m. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of review the emails we send out. If you still have follow-up questions, please, please, please attend office hours. We can also schedule another office hours in February, probably also, just to make sure we catch any other last minute questions that come in. So rule of thumb, please double check if you're unsure about something. Just double check with us, please. Um, so that we can just have high quality data. It really is a group effort to be able to make the picture as comprehensive and accurate as possible. We really want to show um, the real numbers of those who are served. So I know it's a lot of work and a lot of legwork for you, but just know that it's going to be worth it when we have those numbers to be able to share the impact of HCTC. So I just appreciate your hard work on that. Um, any other questions? What forms do we have to fill out to send the actual tax credits to donors? Jack, I'll probably stay on the call to address that with you directly. We may need to get you plugged into a new staff orientation for HCTC, because that's kind of a different topic, but I'm happy to definitely field that question. Any other questions? Okay. Doesn't look like there's any more. Gonna go ahead and stop the recording.